9 weeks ago, they tried to shoot President Trump.
I think that there's been other attempts that haven't necessarily been reported.
Why don't they want us to know the truth? Talk about the Obamas, because he's interjected himself back into the mainstream here very, very recently. Why did he do that? What's going on there? I mean, because you don't hear from the guy for months, and then next thing you know, boom, there are no coincidences, right?
We need a strong male leader who's going to push godly principles and traditional values.
Hey everybody, it's Red Taylor, and I've got a big favor to ask of you. Help us to try to grow this show. If you would go down and like and subscribe, and also please turn on notifications. That way you're notified as soon as new content drops. Also, please share the show with someone that you know. That would mean the absolute world to me, and you never know, it could mean the world to helping them as well. So thanks a million. Enjoy the show. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Red Hot Read. And today I want to bring back one of our favorite guests of all time, a young lady who is an international media mogul and citizen journalist, the real Toria Brooke. Welcome back, Tori.
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. What is it, 6 months now? You were here 6 months ago?
Time flew. Yeah, it's been 6 months.
Yeah, well, it's great to see you. I know that this thing just happened to work out. You live down in South Florida. We are 2 days post-Hurricane Milton, which is coming off the heels of Hurricane Helene. You had evacuated to some family, friends up in Tennessee, and you were able to grace us and bless us with your presence here on a stop back down from Tennessee here in Atlanta to be on the Red Hot Read. So we appreciate you being back.
Thank you so much. I am not excited about the hurricane, but happy that it brought me here. So I did evacuate just in case. I'm on the east side of Florida, but we just didn't really know. And after what we saw happen in North Carolina, I just didn't want to take a chance.
Couldn't take the risk.
No.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I don't think enough people are really talking about North Carolina. I don't think enough people are really looking at the true news to see what's going on there. You know, these folks absolutely surprised, taken off guard, whatever you want to call it, by Hurricane Helene. And I think there's a lot of people that are hurting up in North Carolina. Tell us your story. Give us the journal view of what's happening there. Before we get back to the show, if you actually want to see what my real life looks like, the people, the businesses, my family, my dogs, go follow me on Instagram at Real Red Taylor and at Red Taylor Insurance. We're going to go behind the scenes, show you real time, day to day, the real deal 411 on how I pull it all together and make it all work. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks, and enjoy the show.
So even people who aren't involved in politics are reporting about what's going on up in Asheville. I mean, they're talking about bodies being in trees, FEMA not being involved the way they should have been, and actually not bringing supplies as they were supposed to. We just found out yesterday, a story broke through the Sean Ryan podcast, that the North Carolina National Guard actually had to fill up a C-17 full of supplies that were, quote unquote, supposed to go to the victims, and really it was just for a photo op. So Kamala Harris just wanted to use it for appearances.
I saw that, and actually that blew me away when I saw Sean and the two gentlemen that was discussing. I think the gentlemen are former ops guys, military ops guys, pretty high level guys, and Sean was blown away, and I was really blown away when I saw that. So get this. So I want everybody to understand something. So in the political landscape that we're in right now, we've got, it almost seems like it's a bad movie. I mean, we've got, it's a bad movie that we're watching unfold in front of us. The Democrat nominee, you know, that, I don't know how many votes she got. Do you know how many votes she got to be the Democrat nominee? A big fat zero, right? Okay, so she had no votes to be the Democrat nominee for president of the United States, made the military fill up a C-17 with rescue humanitarian supplies, you know, I don't know, like FEMA is supposed to do, so that she could go take pictures for the public.
Mind-blowing, but it's all been a photo op. Everything that they try to portray as they're doing humanitarian work. And now they're trying to say that people are only supposed to receive $750 each, the victims in Asheville. I mean, it's Maui 2.0.
Yeah. And I've heard that the $750 is actually not a gift or a
loan.
Grant. It's a small business association loan from the SBA. Is that true?
Yes. And so that means that you'd have to repay it back.
So hold on a second. So let me get this right. I want everybody to understand this because we're all kind of, smart folks out there. I'm not smart, but you guys are smart. But so we're giving hundreds of billions of dollars. I think it's north of 200 billion now to Ukraine, right? Okay. FEMA has given hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal immigrants that come into this country from God knows where, illegally, like breaking the law illegal, right? So there's a legal way to get in America, and then there's a legal way, right? And FEMA's giving all this damn money to these illegals that come into the country. But for the people who are born and raised on the red dirt clay in the mountains of North Carolina who are having their lives absolutely destroyed by this natural disaster, we're going to loan them $750.
They're saying this is essentially the great replacement, where they're trying to get our hardworking Americans out and illegal immigrants in so that they can swing the vote. Because if you look at the areas that are being allegedly attacked by natural disasters, they're all pro-Trump and red.
Yeah, like Florida, Georgia, North Carolina,
Yeah.
Tennessee. I mean, it does. I mean, that's not a conspiracy theory, right? I mean, those states
Wyoming
are the ones
too.
that are actually getting attacked right now.
Yeah, so there's actually wildfires or alleged wildfires happening in Wheatland, Wyoming, and surrounding areas right now. And they're saying that Wheatland, Wyoming is home to rare earth minerals, and rare earth minerals are actually used in refractory bulbs and lenses used for lasers in weapons. So they're actually trying to prohibit us from being able to defend ourselves.
Okay. So we've got wildfires going on in Wyoming, burning up the grounds that cover rare earth minerals. So basically displacing the people. Okay. So the government can come in and, I don't know, eminent domain or whatever, burn up all the people's stuff and, take over. You've got just 1,000-year floods. Nobody's ever heard of flooding up in the mountains of North Carolina,
No.
East Tennessee. Who's ever heard of that? I mean, stop right now what you're doing and ask yourself, you ever heard of a flood in the mountains of North Carolina? No. Okay. And so, and these people, it's destroyed everything. And what sits under that land in North Carolina?
Quartz and lithium mines.
Quartz and lithium. And I've read in places that it is the world's third largest natural lithium deposit and the world's second largest quartz deposit. I don't know that to be true, but I have read it in a couple of places. And so, we're talking about on planet Earth. We're not talking about in North Carolina. We're talking about not America. It's on the planet. And so let's dive into that a little deep because, people are like, oh, Red, you talking conspiracy theory. Tori, this is all conspiracy theory. But if it's true, it's not conspiracy, is it? Right? I mean, So what are we using lithium for? And then what are we using quartz for? Hey, everybody, I wanted to invite you to, if at any time you wanted to shop your health or life insurance rates, to reach out to us through the description section below where it says redtailorinsurance.com. Click that link. My team of experts will go to work for you for free. So you have nothing to lose. We're going to search the market where we have hundreds and hundreds of different companies, different plans to see if we can help. If we can't, we're going to advise you to stay right where you are. And if things ever change, to reach back out to us at that time and we'll go to work then. Okay. So thanks a million and enjoy the show.
So lithium can be used in batteries, which many suggest, since we're moving to EV vehicles, that it's possible that the reason they're trying to ruin the mines there is because of wreaking havoc on our oil industry and trying to shift into more dependent upon government choices and the push for electric vehicles, which we already know. Look, if there's a flood, you can't charge your car. No. So if we had the hurricane happening in multiple states and everyone had electric vehicles, no one would be able to go anywhere.
Yeah, could you power a tractor, a bobcat, a diesel engine with electric vehicle? I mean, you're not going to be able to. It doesn't work. Okay, there's a place for electric vehicles, right? There's a place for it. We get it. Okay, but gas and oil and fuel is what powers the world.
Yep.
It powers production. So tell me, how would it work? Okay, so if this is all true, if this is some great big government conspiracy, deep state, cabal, corrupt politicians, the Fed, the central bankers, all that kind of stuff, right? The authoritarian state. how would they utilize this to gain power and control?
I don't know how to answer that exactly. I mean, we've seen them wreak havoc in a number of ways. As far as this answer, I can't exactly. I don't know enough about it.
So I think it's
for the lithium specifically.
Yeah. I think it's I've done enough little research to make myself dangerous, to look at it. But it seems to me like those people up there are destroyed. There's no coming back from it. Like you said, I've heard the same thing as well, that they need body bags. They need body bags to...
At least 500. Even John Rich was reporting that.
John Rich reported that. I've heard it upwards of 2,000. Nobody really knows because we can't get the truth. Obviously, our media isn't telling us the truth.
Yeah.
So,
LFA TV was reporting how people were actually getting arrested trying to assist in the recovery and, any sort of support for Asheville. So civilians that were trying to bring in aid through helicopter and aerial support were actually getting turned away and arrested. Now, I'm not sure what's going on up there now. I know Madison Cawthorn, former congressman from North Carolina, went up there to provide supplies, and they actually got in there and they assisted many people. But I don't know how many cases are successful as far as getting in, and you might need to have connections. So it's really amazing how they're barring it. And it also depends on who your governor is, because you saw DeSantis and the way he's mitigating the support in Florida with the storm was actually phenomenal. And even Trump had linemen housed at Trump Doral, ready to roll.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's pretty obvious now that Ron DeSantis is the best governor in America. Okay. Yeah, I think he made a mistake running and trying to, he got advice. And listen, everybody does that. And who am I? I'm a little old guy. He's the governor. He's got a lot more success and a lot more credibility and accomplishments than I do. However, in my personal opinion, I think he made a mistake by running against President Trump. He never had a chance. And I told anybody that would listen that he didn't have a chance. And I think he may have taken himself out of running in the future for president, whereas had he remained where he was, he may have been on the VP ticket instead of JD or whatever. But God has his hand in all this stuff anyway. But the way he's handled Florida and Helene and Milton back to back, and the way that he's been absolutely truthful in calling out some of the political rhetoric that's going on out there, and the lies that are being spewed as far as the things that are coming out of the Kamala Harris campaign. Tell me about that. What's your take on that?
One thing about Ron DeSantis that I will give him credit for is during the coverage that was going on pre-Milton, I guess he was crying. The people were just talking about his humility during this time. He wasn't just taking this as an opportunity to, put himself on a pedestal, like, look how I'm going to handle this versus how North Carolina was handled. He's actually putting the people first. He's working with paramedics. He's working with linemen, and I guess probably cooperating with Trump because of how they housed all those workers. I think he might even know that this could have been manufactured, and Meta and Facebook right now are censoring discussion of patents of weather modification. So I actually published a list that went out of both granted and filed weather modification patents, which means that not all of them have been approved or put into use, but they date back to the 1800s. So this has been happening since the 1890s, and I had a list up until 2015, and they actually would not let me share someone else's video that had the list, which is why I wrote it out. So I put it on Twitter or X and Truth, Telegram, and Instagram.
Okay. So stop. So you posted a list, factual list of United States government issued patents.
Correct. Not all of them were granted, which means that some of them were just filed. They weren't necessarily put into motion. Okay. However, many of them were. And some of these patents that were on this list were talking about mitigating tornadoes, talking about messing with hurricanes. So I don't want to say too much, but I don't know what'll happen here.
Yeah, YouTube will censor this one. So, well, and I think, there's video of Brennan out there talking about weather mitigation. There's tons of video on the internet that where these so-called experts and professionals speak of government-funded, lab-funded weather mitigation. And it's just interesting that you have people that have lived on the earth 60, 70, 80, 90 years, and they're like, this is interesting. I've never seen a hurricane spin off the Yucatan Peninsula, the eastern Yucatan shore of Mexico and go straight to Tampa.
Well,
never seen that.
There's a video of Lyndon B. Johnson when he was vice president going viral of him giving a speech at a commencement, and he said, "Those who control the weather control the world." So
that was in 1958. What 50?
Around then or 63? It was between the.
Yeah.
I don't have the year off the top of my head.
I was a history major, but I went to an HBCU, so we didn't learn a whole lot about Lyndon B. Johnson. I was so poor, I had to go there on a scholarship.
I mean, that video though is massive, and it's something that dates back well before social media, well before all the narratives and everyone trying to say, "Oh, you're just pushing misinformation." No, this is dating back to at least the 1890s, and Lyndon B. Johnson said it in a public speech. So,
and you know what gets me so much, and nobody really stops, or not enough people are stopping to ask themselves this question, is why do the powers that be, why don't they want us to know the truth? Why wouldn't we ask questions? Why are we not allowed to ask questions on Meta? Okay, why aren't we allowed to ask questions on Google? Why aren't you allowed to ask questions on Instagram, or post certain things on Instagram that, like, I mean, think about it. The government is supposed to be, based on our Constitution, right? Like, for the people, by the people. Like, everything's supposed to be for the people, right? So if we ask questions about, like, hey, did our government do this for the people, or, by the people, or was it in the best interest of the people, or to protect the people, or whatever, then they're like, no, you're done. Bang, censored. Okay, you can't ask that question. Okay?
Well, did you know this? So ahead of Milton, one of my favorite accounts on Instagram, her name is Love Beck Style. She actually used to be a huge fashion blogger. She was demonetized from tons of brands. They cut cords with her because she was pro-Trump and talking about the things that we discuss here. And she was actually trying to instruct people how to find their elevation on their iPhone. So there's an app. If you go to Compass, it'll show you your elevation. Okay. So I checked mine and I was at 20 feet. Now, to give you perspective, the North Carolina hurricane, they were at 120 feet elevation. So compare 120 foot to 20 foot in Florida.
Yeah.
That's why I evacuated. I was like, we just saw this happen. I mean, if you're at 120 feet and you get that flooded, I mean, they can do anything. And she actually had those posts removed. So when she was telling people to find their elevation, that was removed. That is simple. That's a simple skill. Yeah, there's no reason.
It's not conspiracy. You're not hurting anybody by putting that out there. It's just geography. We teach. I taught it in 9th grade high school. So, I don't get it. I think that's something that people really, really need to ask themselves that a lot more and start thinking about. Like, why are people censored? I don't know. Why did they take the sitting president of the United States off Twitter? Off Facebook. Bang, just bang him.
Yeah, okay. And what's so ironic about the whole thing is that we had such high vibes the other day. So President Trump returned to Butler he essentially consecrated the land as a monument to the service workers, Corey Comparator, who lost his life. He was one of the Trump fans in the stand. And Elon spoke, and Elon spoke there about free speech and dark MAGA. And yes, he brought a lot of support for Trump. In fact, I bet that black hat actually sold out. Yeah. But then last night, he's pushing robots that can substitute people and babysit your kids and a self-drivable van. So who are these people really?
Right. So I've had such mixed emotions about Elon for so long because his platform is amazing. I mean, it's like, who has a 300 million human being platform like that? I mean, it's just massive. And he's so intelligent, and he's so smart, and he's so rich. So his word means a lot. I mean, and he brings a ton of people to President Trump's side. But it's not just Elon. Okay, you look at what President Trump has done. As far as the support that he's garnered here recently, billionaires who would never ever have voted for a Republican, much less Trump, have come out and openly, and I'm talking about like Bill Ackman, a major billionaire. I don't know, guy like Jamie Dimon, the head of the biggest bank on the planet, and obviously Elon Musk and several more that would never have, put their name behind a racist like President Trump. I don't know, the guy that, supported Jesse Jackson when he ran for president. He must be a racist if he supported Jesse Jackson. But go back to Butler, Pennsylvania, because I think not enough people, it's almost like nobody really talks about anymore that 9 weeks ago they tried to shoot President Trump and they shot him and tried to kill him up on a stage in Butler, Pennsylvania. And you and I were talking before the show. That's something that we had mentioned on our show 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I hope he's surrounded by an army of 10,000 angels because they're going to try to take him out.
I didn't have any fear for him at the second rally. I think you saw all the snipers on the roof.
Week, yeah.
Snipers on the sloped roof. I didn't think anything was going to happen there. I do think we had another assassination attempt, remember, in Palm Beach.
Yep.
I think that there's been other attempts that haven't necessarily been reported, probably for a reason, because there are crazy people who then get inspired to do things. I do believe he's divinely protected, despite the fact that there's all these attacks on his life. Butler, to me, was more the second rally representational of our resilience and how far we've come. And I mean, it's an emotional thing, like we talked about last time. Look how much has happened in the last 4 years and how much we withstood the storm.
Yeah.
And so these storms, and I mean, I'm going to cry, but Milton, there was so much prayer around Milton after Asheville and what we saw happen there. And that eye actually dissipated. It didn't spiral out the way it could have. And so many people were saved because it did not cause the devastation that we thought. It still did wreak havoc, and there were actually tornadoes that went up the coast of, Palm Beach County, right near where I was, why I wanted to get out.
Yeah.
But there is an immense amount of prayer happening right now, and it is propelling us forward. So I think in the next few weeks, more than anything, obviously prepare, stockpile as always, get your ammo together, but prayer is powerful.
Yeah, amen to that. I believe that wholeheartedly, because if you just stop and think about all this stuff that's happened over the last 4 years, I believe that we're in the middle of a spiritual warfare, the spiritual warfare of good versus evil. And I don't mean that, Democrats are evil. Okay, I don't believe that. Okay, I wish that we could get away from all of the crap that divides us between Republicans and Democrats and red and blue. I mean, they did that on purpose, right? Mm-hmm. They did it on purpose to divide people because, simplistically stated and so truthfully stated, divided we fall, united we stand. And so, but I do believe, with that being said, that we are now more united than ever before, because what the fake news media, what the mainstream, what the corrupt politicians, what the cabal and the deep state, and there is a real deep state and there is a real cabal, don't want any of us to see is that the mega movement is the most preeminent, largest, and I'm not even going to say political movement. I'm going to say movement in the history of humankind. Okay. I guarantee you we're 80-20, maybe better as a country right now. Mega. Okay.
I mean,
America.
Look at the endorsements that Trump has received since we last met. I mean, Nelly the other day on stage at like a music event literally said, "Make America Great Again."
Yeah.
So I don't think any of us would have expected that. But after the fall of Diddy, which he was kind of the kingpin of Hollywood and the music industry, some say he is the Epstein of music.
Yes.
So I think a lot of artists are coming out in support of Trump because many believe that now Diddy went down, a lot of the other political figures that were affiliated with him, the Obamas of the world, the archetypes of, royalty. I mean, there's so many people that were involved in the sex trafficking rings that are hand in hand with these pop culture icons, and we're going to see how it's going to play out in the next few months.
Yeah, so talk about that a little bit. Talk about the Obamas, because he's interjected himself back into the mainstream here very, very recently. I think he gave a speech yesterday talking to men, black men, and how they need to step up and voice and vote for Kamala. Why did he do that? What's going on there? I mean, because you don't hear from the guy for months, and then next thing you know, boom, there are no coincidences, right?
Yeah, well, what's interesting about Obama is that in the beginning, if you remember, when Kamala Harris, it was announced that she might be the next Democrat nominee, him and his wife didn't actually endorse her right away.
Big Mike.
So, and some say that Big Mike didn't run because the meme world would have wrecked her and exposed the truth.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if he's really behind Kamala. I think she's just another puppet to push the agenda. But they would love nothing more than to say, oh, it's the first black woman president. But it's not about that. It's not that a woman couldn't maybe in the future be the president of the United States. But right now, we need a strong male leader who's going to push godly principles and traditional values. That's where our country is going back towards because of how corrupt things have gotten. It's almost like the pendulum. The pendulum went so far to the left that we're returning back to normalcy.
Yeah.
How it was intended to be. I mean, we were founded on godly principles in the state of this country.
Yep. Yep. We're founded on biblical principles. In fact, if you wanted to run for Congress and hold office back in the constitutional, in the 1770s, 1780s, 1790s, you not only had to be a Bible-toting man, you had to be a member of a church. Like that is in the documents, okay? I think Charlie Kirk does a great job of explaining that better than anybody that I've ever heard and pulling biblical references out that are in our Constitution. With all the things that are going on right now, I don't want to gloss over the Butler rally, because I think what the Butler rally means to me is not being talked about enough. I want to, think about this, okay? So he's a human being. He's a guy. Dude's like 70. Well, how old is Trump? 77 years old? 76, 77, 78, okay? And it looks like he's aging in reverse. So, and so the guy's a billionaire, right? I mean, we don't understand what the life of a billionaire can be. It's like whatever I want. And like 10 weeks ago, they tried to kill this dude. They shot him in his ear, okay, in front of the world. He stands up, blood gushing out his face, tells his people to fight, fight, fight. Okay? I mean, this happened. And I get chill bumps thinking about it. And so he rock and rolls, don't miss a beat, keeps going to his rallies. What did he start? 2 weeks, 10, 14 days later, he had another rally, something like that. Kept working. Well, imagine the courage to do that, to get back on the stage in front of everybody. You only have this glass around you, and they've already proven to you that they can't protect you, okay? Because they can come anywhere. I mean, they can come in, didn't they? I mean, they dropped in on paraglides in Israel or whatever, okay?
Allegedly.
A year ago almost. But then not only does he continue to get on stages around the country, not only does he continue to get back in front of people and speak a message of unity, okay, of making America first, making America great again, of America first principles, but he goes right back to the place where they tried to assassinate and actually did shoot him in front of the world.
And one of the things that Elon brought up when he was giving his speech is that you got former candidate, Joe Biden, who couldn't even make it up the stairs of Air Force One. And then you've got a guy who literally just got shot, and he stood up and with his fist said, fight, 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 with blood coming down his face. That is the representation of America and how we fight.
Yes.
And that's who we want in the Oval Office.
And that's who America's always been. That's the resolve of America. That's the American spirit. That's what made us the greatest country in the history of humankind. Now, I believe that is of our people. I think what we've all learned over the last 4 years is that some of the things that our deep state government has done, it may make us the bad guys in a lot of these things that are going on around the world. I mean, we've got a system that may be funding both sides of a lot of different wars historically over the last 250 years.
Well, on October 7th, the anniversary of the attack in Israel, Kamala Harris announced aid to Lebanon. So it's just a slap in the face. And President Trump has said, if you're a Jew and you're voting for Kamala Harris, then you're completely misinformed. And that is very prevalent in the Northeast. I feel like these people are just living under a rock. They aren't really aware of what's happening and who's funding what.
Yeah, I don't understand that. It's because Jews are smart people. Historically, they've been, really smart. They've been really successful financially. They've always owned businesses. They've always been profitable. They've always, their family has always been their first thing. Their family is the religion. Religion is family. And so why would they continue to choose a side that is on the wrong side of history? It doesn't. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense.
So it seems that there's a distinction that needs to be made between regular everyday Jews and then the quote unquote fake Jews who are at the top that are, some call them, well, they're cabal, but they're Mossad. And these people are actually attacking the entertainment industry, I believe, because they're trying to also alter the minds of the everyday Jew who doesn't understand, okay, these people are trying to manipulate me into thinking that someone like President Trump's evil, someone that might have their best interests in mind and America First values, the economy in their peripheral. They're trying to make it seem like these people are evil. And I think the regular everyday Jews are actually being used as footmen unknowingly, just kind of how the Mockingbird media pollutes our minds to promote their ideals. And it's counterintuitive to what they actually believe, but they don't realize that. I think a lot of Democrats, they're classical Democrats, right? They don't necessarily agree with the blue-haired ideology that's happening, but they have been so brainwashed into thinking that Trump is against them, when meanwhile Trump ran as a Democrat, or Trump was a Democrat before he ran, rather. He was going to run under the Reform Party, and he was friends with people on The View, so, that book... friends
with everybody.
Yeah, that book, Letters to Trump, detailed all the people who wrote letters to him, including Oprah, JFK, Jr., so it's amazing that they're just so disconnected from the reality of what's actually happening, and they're choosing to blindly follow what they already knew, if that makes sense.
No. It makes complete and total sense. I have a sister who is blue no matter who. It don't matter. I mean, she's just completely and totally brainwashed. And, unfortunately, she's one of these people that's been single pretty much her whole life. She hasn't had a whole lot of success, a whole lot of, accomplishments outside the home, which a lot of people look for. Now, I'm not going to say that means everything, but, let's be honest, we all want to accomplish things in life. And so I think that is consistent with a lot of people that are on that side that are brainwashed to a point where, we're just going to vote Democrat no matter what happens. Heck, Kamala went on the Who's Your Daddy podcast the other day. And, listen, I can't say anything. That girl's got a great bigger podcast than I do. I'm not ever going to go that route. But I think I read a statistic that 47% of the content of the time that was on the podcast, they were talking about abortion.
So one point that somebody made, I think it was a former housewife of New York or New Jersey, had a viral video. I forget her name, but she was saying, and I think I agree with this argument, it's not that Kamala went on Call Her Daddy, it's the fact that she went on Call Her Daddy right after the North Carolina devastation. Like, the timing was really bad. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Trump did the Aiden Ross stream. He has met with other people, Theo Vaughn, but that was before destruction. Like, it wasn't right after there's a huge natural disaster, and now you're funding Lebanon. Like, we should be funding our own people, America first, and that is what everyone wants to be getting back to. Yes. So I think it's important to say it's okay for candidates to interview with pop culture icons. the timing of things, and it was just a bad look.
Well, not only that, but she hasn't been present where there has been destruction. She hasn't been present where there has been catastrophe.
Correct.
She hasn't been down
She
to the
didn't even
border.
visit southern border.
She ain't been down to the border yet. Borders are. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And then President Trump has been consistently present. I mean, East Palestine happened, bang, he was there in Ohio, okay? With all the bad toxins still in the air. It was like 2 days later, bang, he was there, okay? The recent Helene, whatever, he shows up in Augusta, okay? Which Augusta, Georgia, the home of the Masters golf tournament, is absolutely demolished. I have a brother-in-law who sells tree jobs, okay? So they've been over there for like 17 days now, okay? Wow. And there's no end in sight. Nobody knows it. Nobody knows it. I mean, houses with trees everywhere, and they've had crews over there for over 2 weeks.
Then I was hearing that certain people in Georgia were actually getting denied assistance based on the time or date that their destruction occurred with Helene. And it's just, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you're going to grant it to some people, but not others? I've never heard that.
It doesn't make any sense. On that note, what was the deal with Mayorkas and the FEMA money? Didn't Mayorkas come out and say, FEMA doesn't have any more money, we're out of money, so we can't help any additional natural disasters? Right after Helene, before Milton, right? Yep. And then the very next day, they said, oh, yeah, by the way, we have $8 billion left in FEMA, and we're going to send it Was that when they sent it to Lebanon, or was that the money or something like that? I don't know. There was some kind of open discrepancy.
So, yes, there was a lot of back and forth on that, but it's my understanding that they actually spent that money on illegals.
Yes.
So the money that we did not have through FEMA that should have gone to the victims in North Carolina and now Florida and Georgia and wherever else was affected by these storms. Yeah, we're literally giving money to people who are going to try to swing this election, that they're using to try to bring in the numbers. And now certain states are saying they're not requiring voter ID.
Right.
So, I mean,
California.
Don't even get me started.
Single parties. Yeah.
Yeah, so we really have to pray about the next few weeks because it's more than any of us can really fathom. But the Trump administration, or the Trump soon to be administration campaign, I heard through Paul Sperry, Real Clear Investigations, that they want to utilize buses to actually bring mobile voting centers to people who might be displaced from the storms
in North Carolina and East Tennessee, down in Augusta area in Georgia, Valdosta. Actually, that's where he was. He was in Valdosta, and then down on the east coast of Florida as well.
I mean, hopefully, we'll be West Coast, but. The tornadoes did wreck on the East Coast, which I'm still believing I made the right decision to evacuate. You just never know everything. And apparently there's another storm coming that's supposed to hit in another 12 to 14 days, Nadine. So even the storm chasers had not heard about this, which I found interesting that they didn't know about it, because they were asking in their live streams, like, where'd you guys hear about this? Was it TikTok? Like, why isn't it coming up on their radar? You know?
That's interesting.
Is it man-made? We'll see.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it just merits so much of a deeper dive to go in and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
I think that if we look at it, there's so much evidence out there that there's really nothing that our government won't do that would go against the real people of America. I mean, look at just look at the evidence. I wanted to ask you a question because you mentioned the Mockingbird media. Tell us about what is the Mockingbird media?
Well, Mockingbird is a project, CIA project that supposedly ended, but I think it really never did, and they're still using it every day. It's how the mainstream media kind of parrots the same information all the time to try to push fear, which many believe they actually did during the evacuation calls to get out of Florida. I still think that in many areas it was the right thing to do, but it's really about instilling fear, kind of conditioning you to believe certain ideas, whether it's Trump being, Orange Man bad, the illegal situation that's happening in New York to maybe not be as bad as it is. But I mean, look, there's people who are actually living in New York who are reporting that the illegals are taking the luxury hotels. Okay. These are like massively beautiful hotels that they're getting rooms at. And then an everyday person maybe visiting New York can't go. So the Mockingbird media is trying to pretty much give you the opposite of what's actually occurring. And they say that in China, they've known this for years. So Chinese know that the news is propaganda. It's like a fact. And they laugh at us here because most people didn't know until 2020 when all of us started talking about it and getting suspended.
Yeah, it's crazy you say that. I was on a call yesterday with a guy that's doing some media work for me, and we were on a Google Meet, and he's just got back from China. He was there for like 30 days doing a big tour, and he's like, man, we need to get Shani Rich or somebody like that to go to China and do the street interviews. He said, I'm telling you, it's no lie. He said, the people of China said that President Trump is our last hope to get back to like a godly, world and that's crazy. You're talking about a guy that's divorced 3 times. Okay. He was a New York international playboy. He was a rich billionaire. He was a socialite. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that he's never taken a sip of alcohol. He's never smoked anything, never taken a drug. All his children love him. They're around him all the time. They're extremely accomplished. But they've painted him. The Mockingbird media. Mockingbird was a CIA program, and they actually really do still have a media department in the Pentagon, right? So that is taxpayer funded, okay, to control the narrative of the people or to the people, okay? And go back, you talk about the illegal immigrants that are in these states and in these cities, big cities, that are staying in these 4- and 5-star hotels. That's really happening, okay? They're paying for their room every night, giving them debit cards,
$10,000,
money
filled debit cards.
Yeah, they're giving them EBT cards to get their groceries, okay? And we're broke.
Yeah.
We're $35.9 trillion in debt, okay? $35.9 trillion in debt, and we're giving people that were not born here and entered this country illegally all this taxpayer money that you and I and everybody else that we know get taken out of their paychecks every single week, every other week, and every month. Okay. And we're sending it to places like Ukraine and Lebanon and Iran, countries that say death to America. What in the world is going on?
Well, and what's so wild is now, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, yes, they're forming their own coalition and more countries are joining them. And so what's interesting that you brought up China, I had a friend recently, a fashion blogger who went over there. She was doing other work, but she was just showing tons of videos of China, and it's beautiful. Yeah. And it is not what people think it is here. That's not to say that there aren't certain things that are bad that are going on.
Big cities.
Yes. Yeah. But it was interesting to see. She said she felt so safe there. She said there was pretty much no crime. She said there was police all over, which can be a bad thing. At the same time, right now here, I mean, you got Americans who are bashing our police, who are bashing our supposed means of safety. So if you're in another country and you feel safe as a single woman walking the streets, I mean, that's pretty powerful to say. Like, I felt safe by myself at night. So I was surprised to see that, as I had never really seen anyone's videos just going over there.
Yeah. And so there's no way that you're going to have that same, she would have had that same feeling, or you would have had that same feeling walking the streets of Atlanta, Georgia.
Absolutely not.
Or Chicago, Illinois.
No.
Or Houston, Texas, or New York City in some parts of there. So
Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit. Yeah. So it's a we've got everything backwards, it seems like. Okay.
Well, Trump already said that when he's back in office, China, North Korea, and Russia will not be our enemies. And look at Tucker Carlson went over to Russia and he was raving about their McDonald's.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I think that there's misreporting happening, and that's how the Mockingbird does play in, because they want you to believe, oh, these people are bad and everyone's evil. And I just don't think that's the same for everyone. Even in this country, we don't stand by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, right? So other countries might not support their heads of states either. And I think that's what we need to remember. That's when you have to differentiate the people from their governments as far as perception.
Yeah, no, great point, because, in America, nobody listening to this show today hates anybody from China. Nobody here hates anybody from Russia. We don't hate anybody from Ukraine, okay? We don't hate Iranians. We don't hate Iraqis, okay? That's not who we are. That's not the people that we are, okay? The discord comes from the media, from, creating these narratives that pit us against each other. I'm a white guy, okay? I went to a black college in Montgomery, Alabama, the home of the bus boycott, the home of the civil rights. Like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks walked the same exact halls, sat in the same classrooms that I did, okay? Mm-hmm. You think I'm a racist guy? No, I'm not racist. I didn't feel racism from them.
Well, okay. Look, James O'Keefe and I have the same alma mater. We both went to Rutgers, and look how that turned out for Rutgers. Right. It was such a Democrat school.
Yeah.
But I just think it all comes back to your home values and your core values in family. And if you are raised the right way, and I don't mean that as far as being raised as a conservative, but if you're strongly rooted in your faith, then you'll have more of a foundation when you're going out into the world and making your determination of, okay, is this the truth, or is this a narrative that's being spun to try to, capture my attention?
Yeah, well put. Switch gears with me and let's talk about administration, because I know you're really connected to some high level folks like Kash Patel on his team. When President Trump wins on November the 5th, hopefully it's November the 5th and not the 7th, 8th, 9th, 12th, or whatever. How do you see his administration? How do you see this unfolding, and do you see yourself having a place somewhere there?
I would love to be wherever they would have me, preferentially the State Department. Need some work there, but I think that he is going to bring on some highly America First individuals. You see Richard Grinnell on the ground with the log cabin Republicans, really going after to see that the gay community understands their place in
Trump's
the conservative
homophobic.
movement.
What are you talking about, Grinnell? He's homophobe. He hates gay people. Come on.
Richard Grinnell is wonderful. And yes, Trump does not hate gay people. If anything, he did more for gays during his term than Obama did during his, and then Biden did during his term.
For blacks as well.
And ahead. A lot of the gays that I know have actually come forward, and they're really disgusted by what's going on with the LGBTQ, if I said that correctly, community, because it's no longer about their rights or how they live. It's now about pushing this trans ideology. So I think that the people that Trump's going to bring into his administration understand the difference between rights and pushing narratives that are going to confuse our kids. And that's, the youth is the most important thing, right? Mm-hmm. Wasn't it like Hitler had made some kind of statement saying that when the youth believe something, I forget how the quote went, but it was something about them if you can make them believe something, then it becomes fact. It can become true. So, yeah. On both good and evil, if you can educate children, it can have a dramatic effect on the future. So I think the next administration's focus is going to be, how do we reform what's going on in the schools? I mean, I think Trump even talked about abolishing the Department of Education, yes, which would be wild, but I am for it, because you know why? There's so many great teachers that are bound by their curriculums that aren't able to flesh out.
I was a high school teacher.
I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to become a professor. And in any case, I see Grinnell, I see Kash Patel, I see, Alina Habba hopefully having a place in the administration. I don't know what's going to happen, but those are some of the people that I would really love to see. And there's a bunch of other really great ones.
Where do you see Kash playing out?
I'm not really sure, but I mean, I think he'd be great in defense, great in intelligence. He's a versatile mind, so wherever Trump would see fit.
Yeah. I think you'll be a part of it as well, and I hope you do. I hope you are as well. For our audience who are not really well versed on politics, because my show is more personal development, self-improvement, inspiration, motivation. But, as you can see, I'm really passionate about this stuff. And I really, really want to focus on things, ideas, ideologies that unite us and bring us together, and information and truth, because I believe that truth doesn't need any help. It doesn't need propaganda. Truth is the beacon. It stands on a hill by itself, okay? It does not need to be pumped. It is what it is. It's the truth. The propaganda, the lies, the lies is what needs all the propaganda. So if people want to learn, that normally get on, go home in the afternoon, they flip on Fox News, or they flip on CNN or MSNBC or ABC, CBS, NBC. Where do they go to get away from the Mockingbird media and start learning alternate views of what the truth really is, or what the news really is? Because that's what your expertise is being in journalism and putting out truth.
Yeah. So to start, I'll say Joe Rogan's podcast. He has a lot of different kinds of people on, not just news related, but things that can become news, because they're talking about the food crisis in this country, how much they're poisoning us. If you go overseas and you eat oh my gosh, can't even speak. If you go and eat in Italy, for example, I was just there a couple of weeks ago. The food quality was so much better than here, because even if you have like a little bit, you're full the whole day, because the nutrients in that food is so much better. They're not regulating it. They don't have the FDA. Right. So that's a huge issue, which Robert F. Kennedy will hopefully be in the administration to help with the food and to dismantle Big Farm and the CIA. But that is a huge issue that has been on the Joe Rogan podcast. Benny Johnson, Charlie Kirk. One of my favorite accounts is not a news account, but it's Carnivore Aurelius. He has a very meat-based account. It's all about going back to your roots and really like eating biblically. So going back to meat, milk, olives, things that are discussed in the Bible. Essentially that diet. Yeah. Foods. It's almost like a Mediterranean diet.
Right.
That diet is actually what's really best for us. And obviously everyone's going to have their, before I get attacked by people who are lactose intolerant and all that, everyone's going to have their nuances. But once you get back to the root of things and back to how things were, I mean, you look at the pictures of people in the 70s on the beaches and they're all skinny. Why? Because there's no seed oils, and seed oils are literally destroying our foods. Poison. Go through the grocery store now, and if you are going through these aisles, you look at everything like, wow, like it's just so different than I thought. Their marketing is so eye-catching, and that's how they reel you in, right? But now I don't even want to touch anything, because if you look on the back of the labels, the hydrogenated oils, the not castor oil, that's actually a great thing, canola oil, corn, the way that it's being manufactured is actually ruining your hormones. It's ruining your ability to burn fat. So part of the reason we have an obesity issue in this country is because of the seed oils. Yes. And some people actually refuse. If they go to a restaurant, they'll ask, hey, are you guys using seed oils or not? And if they are, they won't eat it. Yeah. And good for them. I mean, I'm not quite at that point yet, but some of those accounts can definitely give you some truth. And I know that people like Charlie Kirk and Benny still talk about Fox and whatnot, but listen, there are still bits of truth throughout the mainstream news. It doesn't mean that everything you see is a lie. I'm only here because of my audience. I went through 12 to 13 accounts being suspended for giving an alternative perspective. So due to that experience, I know how important it is for people to have the actual information. You could actually save lives by saying, hey, you might not want to get that JAB because you could have life-altering effects later. You might not be able to have kids. You might have, as women, menstrual issues. I know I experienced the vaccine shedding while on a plane. So I actually had an issue where I had been around a lot of people who evidently had the jab, and I had to go to the hospital within a couple of days, and they actually couldn't even find anything wrong with me. Like, I had bad symptoms, but they couldn't find anything wrong with me. And I know that it was from being around those people. Yeah, so
it's a thing.
Things like that kind of information has been shut down, especially from Instagram. Twitter actually has let some of it go through. But, Pfizer was making millions on these contracts. And so having information like that and understanding where the money's going gives you a better tool to guide your next decision. So whether it's decisions for your family or decisions for yourself, where you want to live, where you want to work. If you are not educated on what's actually going on, you are actually just a sheep to the system. I think these people are actually lower level. I don't think we'll ever know who the actual puppet masters are. We just know they exist. But it's people like me who can slowly but surely dismantle their message, and that's what we do. Like, we're warriors for truth.
Yeah. Kash Patel has done a great job of pulling back the curtain and the veil on what he thinks the deep state is in his book, Government Gangsters. I listened to a speech a couple of days ago, surprisingly, with a Columbia and a New York U professor, and each political experts explained the deep state in great detail of these agencies
that control
what's going on, and all of the people, the bureaucrats there that have never voted in, and they spend years and decades bouncing around like Victoria Nuland, the Minister of Death, the Minister of War, from administration, from George W. to Bill Clinton to Obama to Trump, all of these administrations behind the scenes, but push, and there's millions of them in Washington, D.C.
I think the deep state is a lot bigger than that, though. I think that's, the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
I don't think the deep state is just Washington, D.C. I think it's global.
Yeah.
And it's a network of, we got MI6, we got the CIA, we got the FBI. And listen, these agencies can be revamped to do good. And I think there's people within that are white hats.
Yeah.
I don't think they're all, it's just like anything else. Not everyone in Disney is evil. There might be some executives that are, but there's good everyday working people that are part of these organizations that want to make a difference. And I think it's up to us to be able to weed out the bad and try to make some reform where we can. But the deep state it's a multilateral system that is comprised of not only governments, heads of states, conglomerates, various companies. I think that there are various fields of work. So whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's finance, they're all interworking. So I don't think we can just limit it to Washington, and I think that's a big misconception that's said. So I think when Kash talks about the government gangsters in his book and the deep state, he's primarily focusing on Washington.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, there's people who are funneling money into these groups that are above.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty clear now that their primary goal, their only goal, is to maintain control and power.
Absolutely. Yep.
And just to create whatever havoc that they have to, whatever wars, whatever destruction that they have to, wherever they have to, in order to maintain that power and that control. And that'll bring me to my last point, because we've touched on a lot. This has been really fun today. But, I go back to David and Goliath in the Bible, okay? There's a lot of Goliaths to slay right now. There's a lot of Goliaths that need to be slain for humanity, for people to get back to a level of life that enrichment, impactfulness, growth, and elevated being is available to us. Can President Trump, his administration, and all of General Flynn's or whoever's digital soldiers, digital army, can we slay those giants?
I don't know about Flynn's digital soldiers, but I know.
I know. That's why I threw it in there.
I know. I'll slay many. That's what I'm doing every day. And, it's been a long 4 years. I'm exhausted. And I really am here for the people, because, listen, it'd be so easy, just like Trump can just walk away and live his billionaire life. I could just walk away and go back to posting about fashion. And, sometimes I do think that it's nice to refresh your mind and step away, because everyone needs a break to be able.
In it. I mean, it's a battle.
It is a information war.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
Information war. It's a big psyop.
But I think everyone plays a role, and no matter how small your voice is, you know, you were asking why people should have alternative means of information. Well, at the end of the day, we're supposed to be reliant on God and not the government. So the more you can inform yourself of how to, you know, homestead, make your own food, make sure you're prepared with your firearms and your ammo and your stockpiles, that's how you can move away from feeling hopeless if the government isn't coming to your aid. Because look what's happening in North Carolina and in Florida. All the people are coming together.
Yes.
This isn't about the government.
It's the American people.
Yes.
It's the neighbors in the community that are helping each other and coming together.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not the government. They're not coming to save us. That's clear. That's clear. Listen, you are a soldier. You're a force for good, and I respect you. I appreciate all your hard work. I appreciate what you're doing. I thank you for coming back. Cannot wait to watch you continue, because I know you're just getting started. All your best stuff is ahead of you. So tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you if they want to learn more and become part of your audience, Toria.
Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and you can follow me at The Real Toria Brooke on Truth Social, Instagram, Telegram, and then I'm Real Toria Brooke on X.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys, that's it from the Red Hot Read with Real Toria Brooke.